Since my revisit review of the Brady Bunch movie did so well last year as I celebrated the 30th anniversary of that, I thought, what the heck, I'm going to celebrate the 30th anniversary of its sequel as well. Prepare yourselves as the Brady's are about to go Hawaiian in this big film. Here's a revisited review of A Very Brady Sequel. Big Days Entertainment Rankings and Reviews. So, greetings, my fellow YouTubers, and welcome again to Big D's Entertainment Rankings and Reviews. I'm the Big D, and this time around, I bring to you a revisited review of the 1996 comedy flick A Very Brady Sequel, released by Paramount, loosely based on Sherwood Schwartz's own creation, The Brady Bunch, directed by Arlene Stanford in her feature film directorial debut, with screenplay by Harry Elfont, Deborah Kaplan, James Burke, and Stan Zimmerman. Shelley Long, Gary Cole, as well as the other players of the Shady Brady clan housekeeper Alice return, featuring cameos by a big host of others, including one from the previous film. The film was released on this day, August 23rd, 1996. Henceforth, today is the 30th anniversary of this film. Well, unfortunately, it wasn't quite as successful as its predecessor, since this was released a year and a half after its predecessor was released. It got mixed reviews, and again, it earned left at less than half of what its predecessor made. But anyway, in this film, after successfully saving their home in the first film, the Brays deal with a new wave of problems as a valuable antique horse statue Carol owns is being sought after by a man named Roy who claims to be Carol's first husband. Well, he befriends and lives with the Brays and plans to steal the horse. This film essentially follows its predecessor by placing the Shady Bradys in a contemporary 1990s setting where much of the humor is derived from the resulting culture clash and the utter lack of awareness they show toward their relatively unusual lifestyle. Before I go into this, if you have not seen my revisited review of the Brady Bunch movie, click on that card right there in the little box there, a rectangular box. You get what I'm saying. Check that out before you go into this one. I would advise you to do that. Okay, that ought to do it. Okay, on with the story. One evening, a man claiming to be Carol Brady's long lost first husband, Roy Martin, shows up at the 1970s trapped suburban Brady residence. This causes Carol to faint. The Bradys believe his story about suffering from amnesia and having plastic surgery after being injured. Mike has been planning a surprise second wedding renewal of vows for himself and Carol for their anniversary present. And Roy's arrival throws the Bradys into chaos. Throughout Roy's stay, he is openly hostile to the Braves, albeit with sarcasm and insults completely going over their heads. Peter, who is trying to decide on a career path, begins to idolize and emulate Roy, which gets him into trouble at the architecture firm where Mike works. Peter later mentions Roy about, talking about the big house, and Mike, who learns that it means prison, starts becoming suspicious. Greg and Marsha both want to move out of their shared rooms, and when neither wants to back down, they have to share the attic together. When Roy's arrival suggests that Carol and Mike might not be married, Greg and Marsha wonder where they are not technically related. This leads them to separately realize they are in love with each other, which they try to hide from one another. Ooh. Bobby and Cindy start a detective agency to hunt down her missing doll. Upon finding it, they stumble upon a photograph revealing the truth about Roy. He's actually a con man named Trevor Thomas, the assistant to the real Roy. There, there to steal a familiar horse statue that is already an ancient artifact worth $20 million. The kids reveal Trevor's plans to Carol and confront Trevor, who realizes his cover is blown kidnaps Carol, taking her with him to Hawaii, where he plans to sell the artifact to a buyer named Dr. Whitehead, and ties Alice and the kids up to keep them from intervening. Mike, who's now fully aware of Trevor's deception, alerts the police, frees Alice and the children, and the family flies to Hawaii to save Carol and foil Trevor's plans stand by. Sorry about that. Now for the final act and the ending. As always, you know the procedure. You got 5 seconds to stop this video at once. Go to the description box below and fast forward to the time below. If you've seen this movie already, please continue once the 5 seconds are up. Okay, you've been warned. In Hawaii, Carol manages to escape from Trevor and finds her way to Dr. Whitehead's estate before Trevor gets there. It turns out Trevor was responsible for the boating accident that led to the disappearance of Dr. Whitehead's son Gilligan, making sound familiar, making a connection to Gilligan's Island, which was an earlier attempt by Sherwood Schwartz, and Carol's first husband, a professor. In Dr. Whitehead's words, the mill is lost. Another Gilligan's Island reference, and he refuses to pay Trevor for the horse. Trevor attempts to hold Dr. Whitehead and Carol at gunpoint for payment, but Mike and the family arrive just in time to intervene, and after a brief scuffle between the two men, Mike quickly gains the upper hand and subdues Trevor, who is subsequently arrested. Dr. Whitehead offers to pay the Brays the $20 million for the horse, but Mike declines the offer, claiming it's a symbol of their togetherness. Cindy gives him her doll to console him after almost losing her mother. She has outgrown it. Jan, who made up a pretend boyfriend named George Glass in order to make herself seem more popular, meets an actual real boy named George Glass during the family's trip to Hawaii, and they become a couple. So, in the end, as Mike and Carol renew their vows in a ceremony held at their home, Marcia agrees to let Greg have the act to himself until he goes to college, and the two share one last on screen kiss before returning to being brother and sister. The movie ends with Carol tossing a bouquet and a genie named Jeannie. Yep, you guessed it. I Dream of Jeannie reference. Arrives just in time to catch it. And she then claims to be Mike's first wife, much to Mike and Carol's dismay, and this causes Carol to faint once again. End of story. So, what did I think of A Very Brady Sequel? Well, it's just about as fun as its predecessor, but kind of misses it by a few bits and what have you, by that much and what have you. But still, I actually appreciate it for its culture clash and what have you. Anyway, well, the film did okay, but it just didn't quite do as was as successful as its predecessor, as it failed to make only 21 million on its $15 million budget, less than the 54 million its predecessor made the previous year. But however, it gained popularity on physical media. Its reviews were mixed, as Rotten Tomatoes has it at 58% and Metacritic has it score 56. Audiences surveyed by CinemaScore gave this a B minus grade. In other reviews, Roger Ebert judged that while it was not an outstanding film, it was noticeably better than its predecessor. Well, that factually is true, but I kind of disagree in some ways. The first film was pretty fun in ways, because unlike the first film, it didn't have any cameos from any of the actual Brady cast, though. As much as I hate to say it, that was kind of one of my issues. Even though I wasn't quite that big a Brady Bunch fan yet, even though I had respect for the show, he elaborated that it addressed his chief criticism of the original by showing more of the contemporary world the Bradys live in and finding humor in the contrast between their innocence and the dangers of the world around them. And he gave it 2.5 stars. Gene Siskel said that well, said that the movie was surprisingly funny with a clever plot and a solid cast. He agreed that it was better than the original and awarded 3 stars. Jan Maslin of the New York Times described the movie as an artfully nostalgic trifle that was Brady with a vengeance. She praised its wit, casting, and costume design, and noted that it had slightly more plot than the original. Well, yeah, that's true. It did have a little more plot and what have you. Mick LaSalle's San Francisco Chronicle instead found the film not as fresh as the original, opining that while the subplots with the Brady children are bold and funny, the main plot failed to exploit its comedic possibilities. He still found it overall enjoyable enough to satisfy those who liked the first film, and commented that as a satire of a sitcom that wasn't funny, it's often at its funniest when it's purposely stale. Yeah, but upon its legacy began in the mid 2010s, the moment where Marsha Brady, played by Christine Taylor again, says, "Sure, Janet," became an internet meme, usually in the form of of a response gift. In the original scene, while the Brady family is at the dinner table, Marsha questions Janet about her boyfriend George Glass. In 2021, writer James Berg responded to the meme during an interview with Vice. Berg cited Taylor's delivery of the line as a key factor for its success. Meanwhile, Taylor quipped that the meme was genius. So overall, I do find a Very Brady sequel to be fun and what have you. Well, I will say it's almost as good as its predecessor, but it just it's just that it lacked some stuff and what have you, especially having some more cameos because in the first film we got cameos from surviving members of the original series, but not too many though. The only cameo we get, well, from the previous film was RuPaul playing Jan's guidance counselor, Mrs. Cummings. We do have cameos by Zsa Zsa Gabor in our last screen role, as well as Rosie O'Donnell, as she and Gabor were members of Carol's Women's Club. Barbara Eden appears as Jeannie, and David Spade appears as Carol's hairstylist, and Richard Belzer reprises his role as John Munch, the police detective whom Mike asks to investigate Roy or Trevor. Yeah. And Whip Hubley portrays the explorer or dead husband, the real Roy, the professor from Gilligan's Island in the opening scene. Yeah, they kind of had something like that at the beginning. But anyway, yeah. But for the cast, we have Gary Cole once again playing Mike Brady. I mean, he's really good, and I liked his performance. Definitely. Shelley Long returns as Carol Brady. Good, just like always. The rest of the cast is the rest of the main cast is the same as before, with Henriette Mantel as Alice Nelson, Brady's housekeeper maid. Good. Christine Taylor once again. Marcia still good. Christopher Daniel Barnes once again. Greg good. For the rest, we have Paul Cetera as Peter, Jennifer Elise Cox as Jan, Jesse Lee as Bobby, and Olivia Hack as Cindy. Yeah, they're all pretty good, and what have you. For the rest of the cast, we have Tim Matheson, who you would know from films like National Lampoon's Animal House and Up the Creek and many others. He played Roy Martin, aka Trevor Thomas. We have and we have John Hillerman. You would also, yeah, who actually did appear in Up the Creek with Matheson, and also he played Higgins on Magnum PI. He played Dr. Whitehead. So yeah, that was pretty good in my view. That was pretty good to see him in there. So the film does have a pretty good cast in my view. Now the score is once again composed by Guy Moon, which does provide some familiar music we've heard just like in the Brady Bunch series. Plus, we also get kind of a new updated, well, maybe not updated, but a little up-tempo version of the Brady Kids classic "Time to Change," which that's a good song. I love that song. It also has a little bit of a flashback. Well, kind of like you're on an acid trip or something like that, and you're seeing what you think is it looks like the episode of the Brady Kids cartoon. Believe me, this was before I even got to notice that even existed. Yeah, but believe me, it just wasn't the same because if you ever watched the Brady Kids cartoon, we all know that was the time when Jan had her glasses, and But in this one, she doesn't, and she has her braces on. We don't see her with the braces on the Brady Kids cartoon. That is kind of a bit of a downside, but we do get to see a little cameos by the animal characters, though. Yeah, we did see Marlon the Maya Bird there, and Ping and Pong the Pandas. And I think we saw their dog Mop Top from the cartoon, but we did also get to see the Brady's actual family pet tiger, though, in one scene. But anyway, yeah. So a Very Brady sequel is fun and what have you. It's almost as good as the first, as its predecessor, but don't take my word for it, okay? I like it for obvious reasons. Years later, there would be a second sequel to this, which I didn't even know existed, which was The Brady Bunch in the White House, which premiered on the Fox network 6 years later. Now, Gary Cole and Shelley Long actually did return in for that, as a matter of fact. But no one else did because the other, well, the Brady kids from these films, they all grew up and what have you, so they had to get some new ones. Now, I've never seen that, but if I happen to encounter it one day, I will most certainly look into and review it. I know that I read that guy a lot of hate, which is why I've never seen it. So anyway, like I said, you be the judge. Do you think a Very Brady sequel is better than the Brady Bunch movie? Well, tell me what you thought about it in the comments and leave a word for me your answers to this in the comment section below. If you like this video, click the like button, subscribe, click the bell for notifications, and be a part of the Big D Nation. Continue to help support my channel, and you know the rest. Join me next time when I bring to you a spoiler-free review of the film Mother Mary. So if you like this, check out some of these other Brady goodness vids I've done. In the upper left-hand corner, you can check out my revisited TV log on the Brady Bunch TV series I did a couple of years ago. Or you can go to the upper right-hand corner and see, well, it may not be the holidays yet, but this has been one of the most viewed vids on the channel, my review of A Very Brady Christmas from 1988. Or if you'd like maybe, well, something else with Tim Matheson, you can go to the bottom left-hand corner and you can see my review of a later National Lampoon film he actually did appear in aside from Animal House, and that was Van Wilder. And the bottom right hand corner is a button you can click to subscribe if you like rankings and reviews on movies, TV, music, video games, etc. Then I'm your guy. Thanks for watching. Until next time, I'm the Big D saying, see ya.